We welcome you. The Lord bless you as you share. And please just introduce yourself. And we're really eager to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
So, my name's Diane, and firstly, I just want to say thank you so much. This is a privilege to have been asked to do this, and I know that Prayers One has been around for a number of years now. So, thank you that you have gathered together and faithfully prayed for different uh, parts of the Christian faith, for different organisations, for New Zealand, for believers, for people to come to know Christ, and I think. This is why I'm so passionate about the work that we do at Rhema, because it is connecting people to the body of Christ. And something like this is a way for me to connect with you this evening and to connect with you with the work that we do. So if you don't know too much about Rhema, and I know that some of you will, but some of you may not, Rhema has actually been around an incredibly long time for a radio station, for a media organisation. We've been around since 1979. That was when the first broadcast happened on Radio Rhema back in Christchurch, and it looked very, very different back then. But it was actually the idea of a guy named Richard Berry, and I would love to go into the miraculous story that is. But there's an incredible book called Never Say Never that you can get through our website, rhema.co.nz, and maybe that's something you want to check out yourself and just be inspired by his faithfulness and the faithfulness of those who gathered around him to do something that was truly unusual at the time, to have a Christian radio station on the airwaves. Rhema has been around a long time, and since it first started as one radio station, it has grown to now Rhema, Life FM, which is our youth station, and also to what was Star is now called Sanctuary, which is a 24/7 worship station. And alongside that, I don't want to forget Shine TV, and we also do the Word for Today and the Word for You today. And honestly, those two publications are some of the biggest publications in New Zealand in terms of the connection that they get with people. So I have the privilege, or I've had the privilege, of working at Rhema for 22 years. So I started in my mid-20s. I'm now a lot older. And I started on Life FM because I was younger then. And and I worked on Life FM for a few years as an announcer. And I took a bit of time off to have my son Tom. And now I am working for Rhema. And I've been on Rhema for, the rest of the radio career. So, on Rhema as an announcer, as a producer, as someone who does interviews. Now I've taken a little bit of a step back from being a radio announcer, although I still do a ton of it. And I am helping to, be the content director of both Rhema and Sanctuary. So I have a huge privilege in helping the teams do what they do, and just sort of trying to ensure that the content we have connects people to Jesus, which is indeed our mission statement. Over the years, as much as I find it difficult to do, one of the biggest ways that Rhema stays around is through the faithfulness of its listeners, and that is through fundraising. So over the years, often the way that we hear most from people is through our yearly appeals. And the last appeal I actually found the most, I was the most connected to it, and I've been around for 22 years, but the stories that we heard, it just kind of astounded me how God is miraculously using the radio stations to reach people, and to reach people in pretty dark places as well. One guy phoned up, and he had actually found Rhema through a kids show, Adventures in Odyssey, which we were playing out on a Sunday morning. And I think at the time we were playing it out during the afternoons as well. But it was through the kids show that he decided at the age of, I believe it was 60, that actually Jesus was for him. And he actually had a miraculous healing during that time as well. We've had stories of people who haven't had a faith, but who happened to be driving along, and they kind of went over a pothole, and it would skip the radio station to Rhema, and then they would hear a song or a message that resonated with them. And, perhaps they'd get annoyed, so they'd turn it over, but then they'd go over that same pothole and it would it would go back to Rhema. So it was a real signal for them that, maybe God's trying to reach me. There's been many stories of people who have been just really desperately low, and then they turned on the radio station to hear a song or a message. Rhema is a fairly unique radio station of the three radio stations, and that not only do we have wonderful Christian music, but we also have teaching programs, and alongside that, a number of interviews, which are either taking a look at something happening in culture and doing so through a faith lens, or looking at something just that predominantly looks at faith. So many of the stories we get not only are about the music, but about some of those interviews and teaching programs as well. One of the things that I put on the prayer points was talking about the future of the radio station. So, like a lot of things in this world, things are changing really, really rapidly, and probably one of the greatest opportunities, but also one of the biggest challenges, is that rapid advancement away from older technologies through to a more digital age, and that's that there's a challenge in that you don't just sort of simply stumble across a Christian radio station like it has been done in the past, but that hasn't stopped God from getting people to stumble on our radio stations. One person, and I couldn't believe this story because it actually just physically I can't think as to how this happened, but they dropped their phone, and when they picked up the phone, it was playing Sanctuary, our worship station. And I honestly don't know how the phone got to the website to be able to play Sanctuary. But anyway, God is using even the digital age to reach people. And I guess that one of the opportunities with the digital age is if people are interested in listening to Christian music or a Christian radio station, you can simply Google that now, and often Rhema or Sanctuary or Life FM will come up. So again, whilst it's a challenge, it's also this massive opportunity. And one of the big opportunities as well in this kind of future age is, reaching people through different means, which can be used for bad or for good. So YouTube, for instance, we're using it for good, to have some of our interviews on there, to have some of our different programs on there. Podcasts are becoming more and more popular. And look, we want people to listen to radio, but we also recognize that a lot of people are choosing their content based on podcasts. So a lot of the work that we're doing now is moving into that space. So we still have our three radio stations, we still have TV, but for those who now decide that actually they like to hear faith stuff but through a podcast, then we're working with that too. So this year we've put out a prayer podcast. It's called The Privilege of Prayer. We also put out a podcast that Gary Hooflet has been doing. It's called A Very Tall Man, the podcast. If you're familiar with his work, he was on Shine TV with that program. We've now turned it into a podcast, and he's interviewing some really great people of faith. So, really excited about that one. Alongside that, we have Lizzie Oakes, who is on Sanctuary, and she's got a podcast called Where Do You Find God? And that's been going on for a few years now. And in fact, she's just discovered that that podcast is now being people are listening to it from all over the world. In fact, about 124 countries. So, whilst the world is changing, technology is rapidly changing, a lot of people still listening to radio. We recognize that the scope is broadening and that we're able to actually get the message of connecting Kiwis to Christ, or in this instance, it's connecting just humans anywhere to Christ, anywhere in the world, through the internet. So, there's a lot going on, and I put through all these different prayer points, and probably one of the biggest things is just trying to keep up with the sheer amount of all that we could do. There's so much we could do, and it's exciting, but we can't do everything. So if I could just read through some of the prayer points we have, and in particular take a look at some of the things that are on my heart at the moment. And I think the biggest one for all of us at Rhema and Sanctuary and Life FM and Shine, we just want more people to be reached. That's ultimately, if we were to reach one person, that's good with the good news. But we want to reach as many people as possible with the good news of the gospel. So, if we could pray for that and for the different ways that we get to reach people now, one of those being the digital ways, but also through some of the more traditional means like the Word for Today and radio and television. I put in there, we already have some incredible collaborations that we're doing with different Christian organizations. But, there are so many incredible stories of Christians doing amazing things in New Zealand. And, I just want to connect Kiwis to those really good stories of people with faith. So just that greater collaboration between the radio stations and what's being done out there. I'm just praying. I just would love for prayer for our teams and a sense of unity. For the most part, it's a very unified workspace, but sometimes we can get siloed into the different areas that we're working in, which means that sometimes I may not know what's going on with one team, and then we're doing something completely different. But actually, if we were working together a bit more, we could actually get that message out there better. The other prayer point I've got a lot. So there's a lot of things to pray for. So thank you for that. One of the things I've got here is praying for the future of media. Media is in a very strange space now. Probably all aware that trust in media is very, very low. So just praying for the future of media generally, but Rhema specifically, and just thinking about these new platforms that we're moving into. We want to stick with the stuff that people are still listening to, they're still watching, but just recognizing that the world is changing. So praying for the future there. I've got here, and perhaps it's similar to my first point, but praying for the content of the radio stations, that the content will really impact people. Sometimes we can get a little bit, I don't know, stray from the main message being, connecting Kiwis to Christ. And just helping, prayer for good content that reaches people where they are at. And sometimes, that looks different for different people on their faith journey. Someone could be at the very beginning of their faith journey. There could be people tuning in who don't have a faith, in fact, feel a little bit negative towards faith stuff. So just praying that the content is good and that it reaches them. And then lastly, I've got here praying for the staff of Rhema. I mean, these are a great bunch of people. There are people that have been working at Rhema for almost as long as it's been around, and they're still there. And there's people that are new to this, and it's a different kind of space to work in. So praying for the staff of Rhema, for their families. Sometimes, particularly when you feel like things are actually going well, that's where perhaps the devil steps in and can cause a wedge or difficulties. And we certainly feel that during our appeal times where we're fundraising. So if you could pray for families, the families of Rhema and the staff that works there, that'd be awesome. So I think I've said everything I wanted to say. I hope I didn't talk too fast but I hope that's a good outline of the work that we do and the passion I have for this radio station and the broader work that Rhema Media does.